Hi there, it's Mr. Cook speaking. I'm Head of Science at Hertford. Sorry we can't do this in face-to-face, but hopefully I can give you all the information you need on the course in science. So my aim is to try to let you know about some of the resources available to help you support your child, to give some details on the science GCSE, let you know how we assess your pupils and how you can follow their progress as well. And I'll try and keep this to all under 10 minutes. I may fail in that respect. There's quite a few slides to get through, but a lot of them are just for reference so that you can look back on them. I'll make the PowerPoint available so you can look at the fine detail if you want to. But we should be able to get through a lot of it fairly quickly. Now, one of the first things is it's never really been easier with all these streaming services to have access to really high quality science programs. So to try and fit that into the schedule, I know how difficult it can be with so many other distractions, but there's some really excellent stuff out there. There's some great celebrity scientists who can make science really entertaining. And it helps the students to put it into a real world context for them outside of the classroom. And give them some ideas about possible careers. There's such a broad range of things for people of all abilities to get involved in science. It's never been more important to have literate scientists. It seems more important than ever at the moment to be able to sift through conspiracy theories and nonsense that comes out on social media. So to watch some good quality science is quite refreshing, really, and there's lots of it out there. And getting ideas about things that they can do in science can provide motivation for them in the classroom and bring up really good questions for us to tackle and can generate some really good discussion at home. So anything you can do in that respect is always much appreciated. Okay, so on to some of the details in the science department. We've subscribed to something called Active Learn. You're probably aware of it anyway because they use it right through from year 7 to year 11. So it's somewhere that they can always log into. They can get access to textbooks once they've got their login details, which they get in year 7. Sometimes we update the passwords for them, but they can always get in, have a look at the textbook, which is the one that we follow for the course, right the way up to year 11. Whether they're doing combined science or separate science. This is a quick example of the sort of activity that they'll get to do. I've got a cell there, a few questions down the side. If they're struggling with it, they can click on the learning aid. And once they do that, it opens, gives them a choice of either opening up a PowerPoint or the actual textbook, so they can read up on the information. So you might get a PowerPoint like that, giving you the information you need to help you answer the questions, or you get the textbook opening up as a double page spread, which you can zoom in on and read the information. So really good for revision at home, great for homework. If you haven't got access at home for whatever reason, there's always Homework Club, which has Chromebooks that the students can use. And Active Learn itself records the progress of your child, so you can see what scores they've been getting, how much time they've spent on the activity, whether they bothered to use a learning aid to help them or were they just whizzing through it and guessing. The teachers, of course, get that feedback as well. And so you can see their overall progress within Active Learn. So if your child, especially at the moment, has to be off for whatever reason, there's always Active Learn that you can log into and get them doing some work. Okay, another really good resource is a website called Seneca. We use that regularly to set homework. It's got mainly for GCSE, so year 10, very relevant. It gives them all the information on the different areas of science. So if they're looking at chemistry, they might choose to learn about the atomic model and test themselves on it. So you pick your topic, and then when they go into it, it gives them lots of scrolling information, diagrams, animations, and then you might get some videos too. So you get all the information fed to you, and then you get questions on that, and then it responds to your child's learning. So there's various algorithms within it. So if your child's struggling with a particular aspect, it will continue to ask them questions on that. So it responds to their learning. It's set up by cognitive scientists to help pupils to revise. So it's based on cognitive science. It marks itself automatically and adapts to their learning. And here's some promotional data that Seneca have put up for us to encourage us to use it. Lots of students there talking about how much difference it made to them. So to be used regularly, I think it will really help to embed their knowledge and understanding of the course. I'm going to whiz through these fairly quickly. I just wanted to make sure you were aware of other channels on YouTube. Fuse School is really good. Some nice animations explaining various aspects of GCSE science. There's also Crash Course Science on YouTube. And then, of course, you've got BBC Earth. So you could watch David Attenborough riding along in 360 degrees next to a, looks like a Brontosaurus. So who wouldn't want to watch that? Another resource which always seems to get better and better is BBC Bite Size. Again, lots of videos and multiple choice quizzes and things for them to test themselves on. So there's a wealth of resources for them to use. Now, onto the details of the actual course that we use. We are with Edexcel. It's a fairly new course. We've been doing it for a few years now. It was redesigned to make it more competitive. So it's up there with the world's top performing countries. It's 100% examined linear course. So that means that all the assessment comes right at the end in year 11. There's no coursework anymore. There's no way to get any marks in the bag before the end of the course. So yeah, all assessment at the end. There will be an exam in year 10, but that's just to let us know how they're getting on. It used to be core and additional science, where you got two separate grades, one for core, one for additional. So you could do really well on one and not the other. But what happens now is that there's 6 exams. They add up the marks from all of them, and then you get a double grade. And there's an increased focus on math skills and practical skills. So a bit more about the detail in a sec. As far as practical skills go, I just put up here, in case you were interested, all the different experiments and investigations that they have to do as part of their practical work. So all children studying the Edexcel course will do these practicals in biology, chemistry and physics. We give your child a lab book, which is kept in school for most of the time. But of course, we'll let them take it home when it's time for revision. It's 15% of the total marks allocated to practical work. So it used to be coursework, which they did in school, but now we do the experiments in school and they're tested on the exam. So they carry out all those core practicals. And then within this book, there are lots of questions which are similar to those that they'll get asked in the exam. We do a lot more experiments than these, of course, within the course, but these are the ones that we're told they'll be tested on and given exam questions on. Okay. Now to the details of the assessments. Important things to note here is if your child is doing a combined science course, so not the separate sciences, but the combined science, the assessment is 1 hour and 10 minutes, and there's 6 of them. And it's out of 60 marks each. There's a variety of questions, styles of questions, so multiple choice, short answer ones, calculations, and then extended, what we call 6-mark questions, where they have to do some extended writing. You can always use calculators. They'll be entered for either the foundation or the higher tier. It's important to note that if you're on the foundation tier, the highest grade you can achieve is a 5. Which is what most colleges ask for as an entry requirement, but please be aware of that. And the higher tier goes up to from 4 to 9. And I included here some of the details. It's important because there's so much information to take on throughout the course. It's important to know how it's broken down on each paper. So on biology paper 1, you can see the topics that they'll need to be revising and swatting up on in order to be prepared for that exam. So throughout 6 papers, there's 2 on biology, 2 on chemistry, and 2 on physics. So I think that information is important to keep to hand so that you know what to revise for each exam. If your child's doing separate sciences, the main difference is there are still 6 papers, 2 for biology, 2 for chemistry, and 2 for physics, but they're an hour and 45 minutes long, and each paper is out of 100 marks. Okay, again, there's 10 questions and there's a variety of different styles of question. And it's the same grades. If your foundation, it's 1 to 5, and higher, 4 to 9. Okay, I've included the subject content here for the 2 biology papers, which you may want to keep, and the 2 chemistry and the 2 physics. It's not just about learning information, that's important to realise. There's these various AOs, which are assessment objectives. And so, of course, the pupils need to be able to demonstrate knowledge. So 40% of the questions will be on recalling information, on ideas and techniques. Then they'll have to apply that knowledge. So 40% of the questions will perhaps be giving them a question where they're using their knowledge in a slightly unfamiliar context. And then they'll need to be able to analyse that information. And for 20% of the questions, so they might be given details on an experiment and suggest improvements. They might be given graphical data and asked to analyse it. Okay? There will be a Year 10 internally marked exam, as I mentioned before. We'll give them a paper in each of biology, chemistry and physics. They won't count towards the GCSE, but gives us valuable feedback and help us to inform us on what tier of entry they should be doing. I've included here the topics that we'll be testing them on in the Year 10 exam for biology, chemistry and physics. So keep those close to hand, but we'll give you updated information as we get closer to the end of the year. In the meantime, if you want to know how your child's doing before that happens, if you look out for these in your child's exercise book, at the end of every assessment, we do an assessment feedback sheet. Basically, we break down the test into various questions. We look at the marks they got on each question, and they green, amber or red each of the questions, see which ones they did well on, and then we give them something to do as a response to that. So you'll be able to see what grade they got, what their target grade is, and how well they did on that assessment, and make sure they've done some sort of response if they didn't do well on a particular question. So those are glued in their exercise book, so you can look out for those. So in summary, we've got the course textbook for your child to access through Active Learn. You can do lots of homework and revision exercises using Active Learn and Seneca. We're also using Google Classroom these days as a hub for setting these activities. So teachers are even recording themselves, doing videos. So Google Classroom now is a really good resource for doing revision, keeping up with homework, and linking up to these things like Active Learn and Seneca. There's lots of websites, but also you may want to get your child a revision guide despite all these things. We have an order form in school. We order these from CGP. There's various revision guides and textbooks, which I'll show you a picture of in a sec. You've got the subject content that will be assessed on each paper, and we've got detailed feedback on each topic. So as far as revision guides go, I'm afraid these are last year's prices. I don't think they've changed very much, but I haven't got the latest. We're working on that right now, and the office are coming up with a new order form, which your child will be able to get. So we'll be able to order it through finance. The top row are thick textbooks, which are really nicely laid out and a bit easier on the eye, but they're a little bit more expensive. And there's 3 separate ones in combined science for biology, chemistry and physics. There are also on the bottom row the revision guides that are a bit more dense when you open them. They're a bit more tightly packed. So you'd have to decide which one you would prefer most. And then there are workbooks that go with these books, and an answer book. So you can get all of those things. There's also things like flashcards that you can buy. And there's also these bigger books for separate science. So again, 3 separate bigger textbooks at the top, and then the thinner, more densely packed revision guides at the bottom. Okay, obviously let me know if you've got any questions about anything that we've been through. Finally, I mentioned that I did say maths and laboratory skills, practical skills. There's an emphasis on those things. So there's also a maths skills book, so testing your child on the essential skills in maths. Okay, hopefully I've been through everything for you there, but please contact me if you've got any questions, and hopefully speak to you soon. Thanks very much.